You don't fail because you're weak. You fail because you stop. Every time life gets uncomfortable, every time your mind gets tired, every time the path gets heavy, you quit. David Goggins says consistency isn't a skill, it's an identity. And until you change who you are, your results will never change. Most people don't realize that inconsistency is not a habit, it is a lifestyle. It is something you practice without even knowing, day after day, decision after decision. When you promise yourself you'll start tomorrow and you don't, your brain records it. When you say you'll push harder and you don't, your identity absorbs it. When you commit to change but fall back into comfort, your mind learns that your words mean nothing. That's how inconsistency becomes automatic, not through one big failure, but through thousands of small moments where you broke your own trust. Consistency isn't destroyed by difficulty. It's destroyed by self-negotiation. That inner voice that tells you a softer version of the truth. You've done enough. Take it easy today. You'll get back on track next week. One day off won't matter. These aren't excuses. These are quiet assassins that kill discipline from the inside out. They don't come with alarms or warnings. They come disguised as self-care, logic, and reasonable decisions. But every time you listen to them, you drift further from the person you want to become. The brutal truth is this: you can't stay consistent because you're too comfortable lying to yourself. You speak with passion but act with hesitation. You dream with intensity but work with inconsistency. You demand success while protecting the habits that guarantee failure. You want results that require discipline you haven't built yet. And this gap, the gap between what you want and what you practice, is the birthplace of your frustration. David Goggins learned something powerful about human behavior. The body doesn't quit first, the mind does. And the mind quits early. It quits when the routine gets repetitive, when the results are slow, when the excitement fades. It quits when effort stops being fun. That's why consistency is the ultimate superpower. It's not about how strong you are when you start. It's about who you become when everything inside you wants to stop. Consistency is not a motivational skill. It is a psychological war. You win it by removing negotiation. You win it by deciding long before the moment comes that your commitment is non-negotiable. You wake up and do the work whether you feel inspired or drained, whether the weather is perfect or terrible, whether life is easy or chaotic. Consistency is built on standards, not feelings. The average person waits for the perfect moment. They want motivation to arrive, circumstances to align, energy to feel right, clarity to appear magically. But perfect moments don't build discipline. Imperfect moments do. Growth comes from the days you don't feel like showing up but do anyway. Confidence comes from the days you doubt everything but still commit. Strength comes from the sessions where your body is tired and your mind is loud but you refuse to quit. You can't stay consistent because you are emotionally attached to comfort. You treat discomfort as a signal to stop instead of a signal to strengthen. You expect the journey to feel good when the whole purpose of the journey is to change you. You want discipline without discomfort, success without sacrifice, growth without pressure. But that's not how transformation works. If you can't handle the weight of consistency, how will you handle the weight of your dreams? The reason you fall back into old patterns is because your environment hasn't changed. You can't plant new habits in the same soil that grew your weaknesses. Surroundings influence identity. People shape behavior. Your environment either reinforces the new you or feeds the old one. If you're trying to build consistency while living in chaos, you're setting yourself up to fail. You must create structure that supports your goals, not environments that sabotage them. You also fail at consistency because you measure too soon. You expect immediate progress, instant validation, quick results. And when you don't see it, you convince yourself the effort isn't working. But discipline is like a seed, it grows underground before it grows above ground. Weeks of invisible effort lead to moments of visible transformation. Just because you can't see the progress doesn't mean progress isn't happening. Every time you quit, you teach your mind that quitting is acceptable. Every time you stay consistent, even for one more minute, you teach your mind that you are capable. And that internal training, that invisible conditioning, is what transforms you. You must reprogram your identity one decision at a time. Identity creates behavior. Behavior creates consistency. Consistency creates success. The truth hurts, but it frees you. You don't have a consistency problem. You have an identity problem. You are trying to act like a disciplined person without becoming one internally. When Goggins changed his life, he didn't start by running ultramarathons or doing thousands of push-ups. He started by making small promises to himself and refusing to break them. That's how identity shifts, not through intensity, but through integrity. You become consistent when your word becomes law to yourself, when you stop breaking promises made in private, when you treat your commitments as contracts, not suggestions. Consistency is built when the voice that wants to quit no longer wins. When your actions become predictable, when your discipline becomes automatic, when your desire to evolve becomes stronger than your desire to rest. You don't need motivation for that. You need honesty, structure, and daily discipline. Staying consistent is not about massive effort. It's about sustained effort. It's about showing up again and again, even when you're not seeing results, even when the excitement fades, even when progress feels invisible. It's about becoming the kind of person who finishes what they start, no matter how long it takes or how hard it feels. That is how consistency becomes your identity. You've spent so many years believing that inconsistency is a flaw, something you're cursed with, something you can't change. But inconsistency is not a weakness. It's a pattern, and patterns can be rewritten. The real challenge is not that you can't stay consistent, but that you don't understand what destroys your consistency in the first place. The biggest enemy of consistency is emotional decision-making. When you let feelings decide your actions, your results become unstable. One day you feel powerful, so you push hard. The next day you feel tired, so you stop early. One week you're motivated, the next week you disappear. Discipline has no roots in emotion. Discipline grows only in commitment. The moment you learn to separate your feelings from your standards is the moment consistency finally becomes possible. You were never meant to depend on motivation forever. Motivation is temporary fuel. Discipline is the engine, and identity is the steering wheel. You must direct your identity toward the person you want to become, not the person you've always been. Identity is powerful because it creates expectation. When you believe you are someone who follows through, quitting becomes unnatural. But when you believe you are someone who always falls short, quitting becomes predictable. Inconsistency also comes from the pressure of perfection. You think your routine must be flawless. One missed day and you collapse. One setback and you surrender. One mistake and you restart the entire journey. This mindset is self-destruction disguised as ambition. The most consistent people are not perfect, they are relentless. They don't restart every time they stumble. They continue. They adapt. They push through the rough days. Consistency is not about never falling, it's about never staying down. Your mind is not designed to support long-term change. It is designed to repeat familiar cycles. When you attempt to break those cycles, the mind resists. It whispers fear. It triggers stress. It suggests retreat. That's why it feels harder to start new habits than to return to old ones. Old habits are comfortable. New habits require energy. But energy increases only when pressure increases. Pressure is not your enemy. Comfort is. You stay inconsistent because you keep chasing feeling instead of commitment. You want to feel ready, feel inspired, feel focused. But the truth is simple. You cannot rely on feelings to build a consistent life. Your future self is shaped by what you do when you feel nothing at all, when you're unmotivated, tired, bored, frustrated, or uncertain. Those moments are where champions are created. Those moments define your identity. Consistency requires structure that removes negotiation from your day. You wake up at a specific time, you train at a specific time, you work at a specific time, you set the rhythm of your day and your mind follows. When your life is structured, your focus doesn't drift. Your discipline doesn't collapse, your goals don't become optional. Structure is the backbone of consistency. Most people rely on inspiration. The disciplined rely on routine. That's why they grow even when they don't feel like it. Your actions must be scheduled, not debated. The more decisions you eliminate, the more consistent you become. When your brain has fewer choices, your discipline strengthens. Simplicity is the foundation of consistency. There's another reason you struggle. Your goals are too big for your current identity. You commit to massive change overnight, but your habits don't support the pressure. You jump into extreme actions without building the foundation. Consistency is not built in intensity, it is built in progression. You must become the person who can handle the process before demanding the result. The moment you reduce the size of the battle, you increase the frequency of the win. The more often you win, the stronger your identity becomes. And identity is what builds unstoppable consistency. Not power, not inspiration, not emotion. Identity. There will always be days when you want to give up. Days when your mind feels foggy. Days when your discipline fades. Days when the voice of doubt gets louder. These are not signs of weakness. These are signs that you are doing something meaningful. If you were still the same person, you wouldn't feel resistance. Resistance exists because you are evolving, and evolution demands effort. Consistency is not just about what you do. It is about what you refuse to do. You refuse to negotiate. You refuse to delay. You refuse to let your mind win conversations that sabotage your progress. You refuse to be defined by your excuses. You refuse to let comfort dictate your destiny. You refuse to stop. The truth is simple and painful. You do not become disciplined by thinking about change. You become disciplined by acting when you don't want to. by pushing when everything inside you screams to slow down, by choosing effort over ease every single time. Consistency is a relationship with yourself. Every time you follow through, you strengthen trust. Every time you break your commitment, you weaken it. That trust determines your confidence, and confidence determines the magnitude of your potential. You have to understand something deeply. Staying consistent is not about energy, it's about identity. You must become someone who doesn't need to feel good to do what is right. That's the shift. That's the transformation. When your discipline becomes independent of your emotions, you become unstoppable. Consistency is not a gift, it is a choice. A painful choice, a daily choice. But it is also the most powerful choice you will ever make, because consistency creates momentum. Momentum creates belief. Belief creates confidence. Confidence creates transformation. The reason your life hasn't changed yet is not because you're incapable, it's because you stop every time it gets difficult. But the moment you refuse to stop, everything changes. When you show up long enough, often enough, strong enough, the universe moves, doors open, opportunities appear. Your mind expands, your identity hardens, and your future shifts. You don't need a perfect plan, you need relentless execution. You don't need inspiration, you need repetition. You don't need easier days, you need stronger standards. If you want a different life, you must become a different person. If you want consistency, you must build the identity of someone who never quits. Your potential is waiting behind the wall you keep stopping at. Break that wall, don't stop. Don't negotiate. Don't doubt, be consistent long enough for your greatness to reveal itself. You owe yourself that much.